those who don't know me, my name is Steve Strong Sapello. I only knew Billy for about 50 years. And I want to bring a person up and tell you, Brick Darrell Thorbeck. If there wasn't a Brick Darrell Thorbeck, there wouldn't have been any of us, because he introduced me to Superstar. He was a mentor, Superstar was a mentor, and Brick Darrell was one of my strongest, and still is. We've been roommates over the years, and is one of my strongest mentors on this planet. And I'll start this by beginning and say that I remember John Tolis, the Golden Greek. He was my manager for a while later on in his career. And John Tolis said it best. He said, when God created Superstar Billy Graham, he broke the mold. That's what he did. Tolis said that, and we always laughed about it, because there would never be another Wayne Coleman come out of this planet, ever. And it wasn't just the fact that he became a wrestler. His athleticism, his intellect, his humor, all of the aspects of his life were incredible. And I got to know him so well because I was the driver. I was the designated stick man on all the 19 years I was in the wrestling business. I did our driving. He was the only guy that would trust me to take the wheel and take us around. Back then, we would do 2,000 miles a week. I'm not talking about the guys now would come into the gym and go, gosh, my limo was late and my plane got delayed. No, we were doing 2,000 miles a week in all these territories. He also put me in touch with Stu Hart when I was beginning my career, and he called Stu and says, I got a 300-pound guy with 21-inch arms, and he can dunk a basketball. Can I send him up to Calgary? And so Stu said, yeah, bring him up here. He'll take care of the bastard. He got the big arm. Whole thing. So I went up to Canada. Now, when I got there, they were telling me stories about Wayne and said, you won't believe this, but when he drove up here, he was coming up there in a Cadillac Coupe de Ville. And within 3 days, GMEC repossessed his Cadillac, and he was taking cabs like they were going out of style. He lasted about 3 months. I did 7 more. But what I learned from Stu Hart and Calgary, breaking in there, that he did, that you would never have to worry about calling a territory or saying, do I have a way in here? And that's carte blanche. You came from the dungeon. Okay. So fast forward, I was leaving Calgary. Super calls me up and says, we're going to Texas. Says, Von Erich's got a good territory and it's hot, and I think it'd be great for you. So he said, get your butt out of the snow and come on to Texas. So I fortunately was able to be Super's tag team partner for several territories, which, you know, there's only brochures and posters now of everything, but he took me on as a tag team partner from each of these territories, and I made nothing but money when he was there. And he took care of me, and I drove him around, and we trained no matter what we did that night. He wasn't a partier or a drinker. Super wasn't, but the next morning, 7 o'clock, we were the only 2 guys at the YMCA that showed up. And that was a commendable thing that Brick had instilled in all of us. And so went on from the wonderful stay in Texas, where Super was over big time there too. And we got to the Carolinas, the Crockett Carolinas. We arrived there the day after the plane went down with Ric Flair. And Rick and I were on the midway at the county fair that evening. They said, everybody bow your heads. The plane just went down with Ric Flair, Wahoo McDaniel, and Johnny Valentine. And so we went to see Rick laying on his back in the front living room with a hairline fracture, and they said, Strong, you got to take over. We haven't got any more heels. Everybody's laying up in trouble. So after that little stint, the most wonderful part was when before Christmas Eve, I'm living in Venice with My wife's father, Richard, who was the Red Baron, Richard Groupie, he was another wrestler. So my wife is from a wrestling background, as Valerie is, so we all share that in common. They only understand the road like nobody else does. She was with him when she was a little girl and had to be, run in and run out. And so I was told on Christmas Eve, show up, I got your plane ticket, you're booked in Tampa. We're shooting a big angle with Joe LeDuc and a bench press thing, and we're going to go nuts, and we're going to take that all around Eddie Graham's territory in Florida. So we were there for a while, and this was one of the greatest things that happened. One night after the matches and after the time at the, I can't remember the name of the club we all went to, but we stopped underneath our apartment building where all the boys lived was a little restaurant, small little restaurant, IHOP. And so here we are, 10, 11 o'clock at night. Super looked over and he was smitten. He looked in that booth and he saw Valor and he saw that flowing brown hair and that dark Indian skin. He went, oh my God, that's it. I gotta have her. That's it. Yeah, honest to God. That's it, I swear, honest to God. And that was it. And it never turned back from there. And she knew what the road was, and she knew what it took from her background to be on the road out there. And so that was basically my run. And then it was 1977. We finished up in Florida. I went off to Hawaii because Super got me booked in Japan because we wasted so much money sitting around Venice all 8 years. I went off to Hawaii where I became 2 years tag team champions with Jesse Ventura in the Mid-Pacific and all over Guam, Taipei, Saipan. We were the champions there. And from then on, Superstar went on, and you know the story from there. He became bigger than life, better than life. And one thing that Joe Gold always told me, who was another one of my mentors, is that when you take on a friend, and I mean I'm talking about the 5 that you have on one hand, not friends, he's my buddy, he's my friend. The friends that you accumulate over your life, Joe said, and always said this, he said, you don't have to like everything about that friend, and you're not going to have to be happy with every aspect of that friend's life and what he does and how he acts and reacts, he says. But if you want him as a true friend, you have to believe in him and enjoy them as your friend. And that's what I got to say. Thank you. God bless everyone. And Valerie especially, one of the strongest women I know. You could outbench Star, and it's the only time Billy's ever been below me right there now. God bless.